Hi, I'm Kat Kalashian with Live and Invest Overseas, and today we're going to talk about this year's, for 2026, number one overseas retirement haven in Europe. This is possibly the world's most legendary retirement haven in Europe at this point, Algarve, Portugal. So let's dive in and look at just what makes this the perfect retirement haven for this year. Few places in the world could be called perfect, but Portugal's Algarve is about as close as it gets. And we've been saying that for about a decade now, because for nearly a decade, it reigned supreme as the number one overseas retirement haven in the entire world overall, before dropping to second a few years back because of some legal changes and rising costs. So a few things have changed over the years, but despite legal changes, to its residency and tax and investment programs, as well as increasing costs, which I mentioned. It did knock its grade down a little bit, but Portugal continues to be the best choice in Europe and the second best choice in the world this year when it comes to an easy, comfortable, and gratifying retirement. So let's just give the elevator pitch and get that out of the way. Portugal has the best climate and more sunny days than any other country in this part of the world, thanks to this fantastic weather that's year round with more than 3,000 hours of sunshine. It's more than 300 sunny days per year. Almost every day is a perfect day to get out and enjoy your new home. Portugal has been a haven for foreigners for decades now already, really more than a century. Over 1.5 million foreigners currently call Portugal home, and numbered among them are about 100,000 expat retirees. In all ways, Portugal is one of the most welcoming countries you'll ever experience. Plus, English is spoken very widely, both among locals and also among the expats, who are largely British and now increasingly American and Canadian. There's also an impressive list of things to do here, perfect reasons to enjoy that weather every day, including highbrow culture and an abundance of outdoor activities, which again, you can practice just about any day of the year. From fishing and hiking to four-wheeling and skydiving, plus Europe's best selection of golf courses with more than 800 holes in the region. So if golf is important to you, this is the top place in Europe to come. It's not any longer the world's cheapest place to live, but it is a bargain compared with elsewhere in Europe, especially when you consider the lifestyle that you're getting for this, whether it's beachfront or, in this historic little beautiful village, perhaps even in the capital, Lisbon. Of course, for this year, Algarve is the winner, this southern region of Portugal. But always keep in mind that there's more to the country than just this one region. So it's worth taking a look if you're interested in big city living as opposed to coastal living. Lisbon is worth your attention. Plus, Portugal has been rated the seventh safest country in the entire world for this year. Well, actually, that's according to the 2025 Global Peace Index. 26 has not come out yet. Take your pick among bustling little coastal cities, resort towns, quiet inland villages, and Faro, which is the capital of the region and home to the international airport, so that one's nice and convenient. The towns such as Portimao, Lagos, Albufeira, Tavira, Lagoa, and Silves are very popular with expats. It's very easy to get plugged into foreigner life there. And smaller villages like Carvoeiro, Faragudo, Moncarrapacho offer a little bit more of a traditional way of life. And before I get any further, I'm going to put in a plug because I will be in Portugal, in Lisbon, for our Live and Invest in Portugal conference for this year, March 25th to 27th, and I would love to see you there. If Portugal is of any interest to you, whether it's for retirement, for becoming a digital nomad, for raising a family, whatever your goals are. Pure investment as well is another goal some people have here. We can help support that dream at this 3-day in-person event, again in Lisbon, March 25th to 27th. I'll be there along with dozens of our in-country expats and experts who can help you make your Portugal dreams come true, no matter what part of the country you're thinking about or what your goals are. Our Live and Invest in Portugal conference will guide you through everything you need to know about living and investing in Portugal, and you should click that link on your screen to reserve your seat or learn more about the event in the meantime. All right, so let's get into it. Some of the nitty-gritty things. Let's get into some more details a little bit beyond that glossy magazine spread that's so easy to focus on when you're looking at a beautiful place like Algarve. So the cost of living, for example, it was much lower in past years, and again, this was one of the reasons that it slipped a little in the grading from first to second place on the overall index, but it still remains the best in Europe, number one for all of Europe. But a budget of around $3,000 per month is a really good guide. You could live for much less or much more. For example, the minimum wage in Portugal is about $1,010 per month, and the average salary is around $2,087 per month. So people can and do live for a lot less than we're suggesting here. It just goes to illustrate how your budget is a very controllable item in the every bit of thinking about going overseas. So if you're looking for really budget-friendly options, consider Portimao, a lively little coastal city. It's in central Algarve. If you head a little bit further east to the fishing town of Olau or the charming riverside town of Tavira, which has also won the top spot in our index before. Each of these spots, monthly rentals can be found for under $1,000 per month. If you prefer city living, Faro is the capital of the region, and you'll find monthly apartment rentals here starting from around $1,100 per month. For a house, you'd probably pay $2,000 or more per month. If you shop like a local at the markets for your fresh meat, fish, fruit, veg, you'll make big savings on your grocery bills. When it comes to dining out, you can enjoy a simple breakfast or lunch for around $10. You'll find restaurants offering the prato do dia, which is the dish of the day. This usually costs about $12. It'll include a main course, a drink, maybe also a dessert and a coffee, either or, it depends. In more upmarket or tourist locations, you'll pay closer to $25 per person for a mid-range meal out. And if you're after Michelin level eats, you can easily double that. So again, very controllable item when it comes to your thinking about living overseas. You can live very cheaply. You can also live a little bit more extravagantly. And what's important to keep in mind is the level of extravagance is so much higher than the cost that you're paying to get to that level, you know? So, I mean, they call Portugal the California of Europe. And I've heard so many people say that, people who actually have lived in California, and say Portugal absolutely fills that checklist out. But to live anywhere in California is going to cost many multiples of what it would cost to live in even the most high-end lifestyle in Portugal. So again, keep in mind apples to apples when you're thinking about these comparisons. So just to give a little bit of a cost of living at a glance, we would recommend probably budgeting about $1,700 a month for rent. A coffee costs about $1.50. A beer would be about $3. A meal out, budget for $25 a head. You can eat out from half of that very easily. But, you know, for example, a meal for a couple, you could maybe spend 30, 40 euros and have a very nice lunch. A movie ticket is $9 here, and a trip to the doctor is only $45. So speaking of a trip to the doctors, let's talk about the healthcare here. So Portugal is home to one of the world's best healthcare systems. The hospital network is modern. It has well-equipped units. Many English-speaking doctors are available here in both the public and the private facilities. The public healthcare here is available to legal foreign residents. So once you've got your visa, you are treated like a Portuguese citizen when you walk into a hospital. The national healthcare system basically guarantees all of your basic needs, from accidents and illness and even beyond, are going to be covered by the national system. The public healthcare is essentially free for residents, but the wait times can be longer than you might want. So many expats and many locals to supplement the public program with insurance that allows them to visit private facilities as well whenever they would like to. All right, so let's get a little bit back into the fun side of things, talk about entertainment. So when I talk about entertainment, I'm basically thinking about things that happen indoors. And so when it comes to this part of the world, there are plenty of museums and archaeological sites throughout the Algarve region. There aren't so many art museums, lots of little local galleries though, so you won't go wanting for art here. But that's pretty much where the limitations end, because this region has its own symphony orchestra, an opera company, active theater groups, university campus, public library network that continues to expand its English language offerings every year. And thanks to the expat community that's so prevalent in this region as well, there's always a film being aired in English or a play being put on by an English theater troupe. There's a huge diverse array of interest groups, hobby clubs, little cultural associations that are very easy to join if you're looking for company or shared activities. And that's really the best way to make friends, be they expat or local. If you're a fan of festivals, Portugal has them in spades, whether it's the local traditional heritage culture, the medieval fairs, music performances, outdoor concerts. There are just so many types of events that take place throughout the year at all times of year because of the fantastic weather. Right, so recreation. This is the stuff to do that's outside of four walls. So the Algarve, it's all about the great outdoors here. The region has more than 150 miles of Atlantic coastline. It's punctuated by jagged rock formations, lagoons, very long sandy beaches, 85 of which for this year have earned the coveted blue flag status from the European Blue Flag Association. Albufeira and its area really lead the region with the most blue flag beaches. There are 25 of them there, but you'll find them all over the country as well as the Algarve. The water off these shores is azure. It has these insane clifftop vistas. They're just spectacular, breathtaking views. Most beaches do have lifeguards during the summer season, but not so much in the winter. In the Western Algarve, the coast is known for these wild waves, which make for world-class surfing, if you're interested in that, but also jaw-dropping cliffside views and gorgeous ocean panoramas. In the Eastern Algarve, things are a little bit gentler. So kayaking, paddling, cave fishing, those are more often done on this side and also along the rivers and the mouths of those rivers. So the Arade River, for example. And it is really just a natural wonderland. When you want to get back onto dry land, you can explore any of the excellent mountain biking or hiking trails, fill your days with horseback riding, bird watching, whale watching. And again, attention golfers, Algarve has more golf courses per capita than anywhere else in the world, and many rank as some of the best courses in Europe. So definitely a place to come. It's regularly named among Europe's best golf destinations, and 42 of the top courses in Europe are in the Algarve. So quite a testimonial there. And as I've mentioned, it's so easy to get involved with pretty much anything that you would want to get involved with here because English is so commonly spoken. So this is one of the reasons so many Anglophones have chosen to live here, because English is the second most spoken language in the country, which I think this is the only European country we can say that about. Of course, I'm excluding the UK and Ireland and Malta, which has the official language of English. But when it comes to mainland Europe, you're really not too often in the majority for English speakers, so not something to be overlooked. Living here, you could easily get by without speaking Portuguese. Of course, any effort to learn the local language is appreciated and will enrich your life a good bit. But having said that, almost everybody here speaks English. It's taught in schools in Portugal, so you'll easily find any professional, a lawyer, a doctor, real estate agent, they're all going to speak English flawlessly, really. Restaurants and stores as well will almost always have somebody on staff who is English speaking. And then, of course, there's the prolific expat community that really helps to bolster this feeling of inclusion, especially when it comes to language. So the Algarve specifically is home to thousands of expats from around the world. Making friends here is so easy, both with locals, as I've said, and with expats as well. All sorts of groups and clubs meet across the region. Facebook is a great place to look for them. That's really probably the hub, but do Google searches as well. And so whether it's a sport or an art or photography class, you can pretty much find anything for any age and find some people nearby who are also doing that. So when it comes to the day-to-day of living here, the infrastructure is also really good. And this is, in Europe, in big cities, things work very well. But when you go out to rural regions, things can very quickly deteriorate. So even in France, in Italy, in Spain, and in Portugal, you go inland a little bit, you wander away from that main path or those tourist zones, and things can start working less reliably. That's not the case here in the Algarve. So internet download speeds are over 200 megabits. There's widespread fiber optic coverage. And the electricity is as reliable as it's going to get, really. There are occasional outages during major storms, maybe grid maintenance, but nothing out of the ordinary or excessive. And there's an impressive train network throughout the Algarve, and trains are extremely affordable here. So it's a nice way to get around in this part of the country. Plus, if you buy your train tickets more than a week in advance, you will get a discount of 40 to 50%, whereas buying it the day of premiums go up. Local transport isn't especially well developed here, though, so you're going to need a car to get around, and that's one of the few compromises I see about living here. I'm all about going car free. I haven't really owned a car for more than just a couple years of my life when I was in the US, and I find car culture very alien. So I'm always looking for places where I can live very comfortably without a car, and Algarve is not one of those places. So outside of all the major towns and cities and off the main roadways, you might not necessarily have them be paved, or they could just be in a bit of rougher shape. And that's what I mean when I say the further you wander from these major areas, the more iffy the infrastructure gets. But overall, I would still give the infrastructure a very high rating throughout the region. All right, so when it comes to the actual legalities of living here, there have been many changes to the residency and investment and tax programs over the past few years. In 2026, at least for the moment, I'm recording this at the end of January, so we'll see if things change much in the next few months. But for the moment, the best way to seek residency in Portugal is through the independent means visa. This is the passive income earners in visa. It's also called the D7 visa. And it's actually one of the easiest permits in all of Europe to apply for and qualify for. So you should be prepared to show about $1,500 a month in income. The official amount is much lower than that, actually. But the more you can show, the better your chances of getting in. So 1,500 is kind of the baseline limit for what we know is almost a guaranteed qualifying amount. So you can qualify for less than that, but make your life easier. Why not, right? And show that you make 1,500 or more, and you're more of a shoo-in, let's say. And the D7, that is a 2-year residence permit that is then renewable. Taxes, unfortunately, there is no longer really a tax incentive program here in Portugal, just like there's not really a golden visa option anymore, at least not for real estate. If you wanted to invest in other business opportunities in Portugal, it might be possible, but for the most part, that D7 visa is the one that people are finding the easiest to qualify for right now. And so taxes. Without the former incentive program that Portugal used to offer, taxes are relatively high, and Portugal does tax on worldwide income. So there are tax treaties in place between Portugal and the US and Portugal and Canada, which help residents avoid any kind of double taxation. So basically what that means is it should be more or less neutral, especially for retirees, because even if you are taxed in Portugal, you'll receive that as a tax credit on whatever you owe in the US. So it becomes a neutral situation, but we always recommend that you work with a tax attorney who understands how it works in both countries before you make any big decisions, like buying property, for example. So tax at a glance, tax treaties with the US and Canada, yes. Income tax is between 13.5 and 48%. Again, high tax countries in Europe. There is an inheritance and estate tax, which applies 10% fee on inheritances, but only if the assets are gifted to someone outside your direct family. So as long as you're only following, the line of succession, as it were, you won't incur any of those taxes. Property taxes are minimal, 0.3 to 0.8%. So that's something else you're making out on a little bit well here. And capital gains is 28%. So there are some tax considerations to keep in mind. And these are the kinds of things that we really, really get into at our conferences, because it's very hard to understand these things in such a general way when we're there on site with the tax attorneys, with the residency attorneys, with the real estate attorneys, these people who can really assure you about your specific scenario, your situation, and what will apply to it. There really is no comparison to speaking with somebody and having an in-person consultation. So this gives you the A to Z of retiring in Portugal in 2026. But I encourage you, even though we did get into some details here, it really just is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to everything that you need to think about when it comes to moving overseas or moving to any new country. So if Portugal is on your interest list, I encourage you to click on that link and learn more about our upcoming conference. I will be there in just a few short weeks now. We're at the end of January as I film this, so only about 8 weeks left until we'll be there on site in Lisbon with all of our friends and colleagues there, as well as 100 or so of your fellow attendees who are going to be there to learn how to make this move for themselves. And so it's not just the experts who live there and the expats who are already there. It's also creating a bit of a a community at these events where you get to speak with like-minded people who have the same ideas as you, the same desires, the same wishes, hopes, aspirations, whether it's limited to Portugal or perhaps ranging throughout Europe or perhaps ranging throughout the entire world. These are your tribe, these people who come to these events. If you're thinking about moving overseas, these are the people that you should talk to and become friends with. I assure you they will become lifelong relationships. So if you would like to join us or learn more about joining us in March, please click that link and learn more about our Live and Invest in Portugal conference. Thanks and happy trails.